Hi there friends, and welcome to my Halloween with DragonLorne video. I really appreciate everyone stopping by. I've got a lot planned today, so without further ado, grab some food, some drinks, and let's get started. So this video is going to feature a number of Halloween related skits and stories, and where better to start than the northern region of Skyrim. For Skyrim is home to many horrifying abominations, such as the frostbite spiders and lost souls unable to reach the afterlife. To learn the first tale from Tamriel, we're going to have to travel to the city of Whiterun. There's a lot of spooky stories told throughout this town. For example, many people claim to have seen shadows in the night, or howling on the full moon. However, to learn more about the spooky sighting we're going to elaborate on today, this will require a quick visit to the Bannered Mare. For we've all heard the bard's tale of Ragnar the Red.
Was a hero named Ragnar the Red who came riding to Whiterun from old Rorikstead.
There once was a hero named Ragnar the Red who rode into Whiterun from old Rorikstead. Now Ragnar was full of arrogance and he boasted of his triumphs, but he was challenged to a duel by the war maiden Matilda, and as we know from the bard's song, he lost his head in the process, deeming him no longer boastful. Now it's not really elaborated upon, nor is it confirmed, but Ragnar, although now dead, still wanders the roads of Skyrim between Rorikstead and Whiterun. If one is brave enough to venture outside the city walls after dark, and they wander on the road between Whiterun and Rorikstead, they may catch a glimpse of the Headless Horseman who gallops through the darkness. It's difficult but not impossible to keep up with him, but he's completely harmless if one manages to. And it's also worth knowing, if the Headless Horseman witnesses the death of one of Skyrim's wild creatures, he'll whisper the phrase, "Finality." Eventually the horseman will lead you to Hamvir's Rest, where we can only assume he's buried, for Hamvir's Rest is a small ancient Nord graveyard to the northwest of Whiterun. On approaching the main burial crypt, one might think that this is the resting place of the Headless Horseman. Upon closer inspection, we find that this is just an unnamed grave, with a restless Draugr inside, and his head still intact. However, over to the left, we'll find another burial crypt, and outside, a battle axe, the same battle axe on the back of the Headless Horseman. Now I've never found out any more about this Headless Horseman, and it's never been confirmed if he is in fact Ragnar the Red. But in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with a bit of mystery, especially on Halloween. Now I hope you enjoyed that first little Halloween themed tale from Tamriel. Now moving on to the next subject of horror games. Now horror games can be just as great an experience as horror films on Halloween. So to help me share some great horror games, I've recruited the help of some of my YouTube friends. To find my first friend, Renegade Electress, we're going to have to leave Skyrim and travel to New Ramsgate. Now New Ramsgate has absolutely knocked it out of the park with its Halloween theme, and it's here you'll find Renegade Electress as she prepares for her next behemoth hunt. I'd highly recommend visiting this town at this time of year for the limited time Halloween events and all the treats that they give you. And as you can see, the Halloween party's in full swing here in the town square. So if we go up to the tavern, I'll introduce you to Renegade Electress. Hey Renegade, how are you?
Oh, I'm just great. How about you?
I'm not bad. Renegade, what's your favourite horror game?
Oh, my favorite horror game. I'd say Resident Evil 4. It may not be like your typical horror like ghosts and whatnot, but the zombies in it and stuff are great. Horrifying, in fact. Because when I first got the game, I was only like 11, and so I barely made it past the first level and turned the game off and didn't play it for like another year. But it is a very fun game. All the Resident Evil games, I'd say it was my first in the Resident Evil series, so I went back and played the other ones, of course, but that was the one that definitely gave me the most nightmares as a kid.
Thank you, Renegade.
Well, I hope you all have a happy Halloween.
And yourself. So thank you, Renegade, for that. Now moving on, we're going to my other friend, Phantom Gamer.
I got a comment on my latest Skyrim video off my good friend at DragonLorne, and he was asking me what my favourite horror games are. Now, my favourite horror games are more or less basically just apocalypse, survival games, kind of things like Resident Evil, Dying Light, Dead Rising, Dead Island. Those are like some of my favourite ones, and well, I mean that's kind of what my favourite horror game is, because I don't like, you know, going through a maze or whatever and then getting jump scared around a corner, because it doesn't actually scare me and it's boring. I like, you know, like first person shooters or like adventure games and stuff like that that are, you know, more horror, you know. They got zombies, loads of gore and stuff like that in it, because it's more exciting and interesting than, you know, going down a maze, having to solve a puzzle and then getting jump scared by a monster that then leaves. You know, there's no actual fighting or anything, they just scare you, so it's boring. But yeah, so those are my favourite games, so you've learned a little bit about me in, you know, the horror genre. In regards to horror films, I do enjoy, you know, a lot of horror films, although they're never that scary, they're just more funny sometimes. But yeah, so he will be doing a Halloween video soon, and that's what he wanted them for, so go and check out his channel, and of course they will be over there.
Now that's another great opinion, and there we can see Phantom Gamer playing Fallout 4. Now I'm going to be honest, I love the Fallout series, but Fallout 3 when it came out absolutely terrified me. The first time I saw a feral ghoul, I dropped my controller. But for me personally, I think my favourite horror game of all time, as you can probably tell, is Alien Isolation. Now not only do I love the Alien films and I love the lore of it, I think this game is just an absolute masterpiece when it comes to survival horrors. It's claustrophobic, you're constantly being stalked by the creature, and you just never want to leave from your hiding spot. The music, the sound effects and the incredible AI. The developers did an incredible job capturing the theme of the original Alien film, and I've enjoyed it so much that I completed it on the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and even the Nintendo Switch, which is an absolutely cracking port.
Repeat, slow down. A creature.
He said, come out and play.
How did I know I could trust you?
Fun and games.
She's getting worse. She's dying.
Let me be. Let the devil take me.
Now I can't just leave it at that, because I feel like there is one other horror game that I need to include. And that of course is Little Nightmares. Now if you were to tell me a side-scroller could be scary prior to playing this game, then I probably wouldn't have believed you, but this game is horrifying at times. Again, the soundtrack, the sound effects, the overall theme, they're just incredible at creating this horrific masterpiece. And as you complete the game and learn more about the story, you only want to find out more. And I'm really glad to hear that the second Little Nightmares is well on the way. Now returning back to Skyrim, and more specifically the claustrophobic Morthal Marshlands, it's here we'll explore our second Halloween tale from Tamriel. Besides perhaps the graveyard and Falkreath, I can't really think of anywhere in Skyrim that gives you more of a Halloween feel than Morthal. With the dreary swamp and the towering unhealthy trees, Morthal's a town that has more than enough Halloween related stories to tell. And the tale we're going to share today lies at the edge of town, where there are the remains of a burnt down house. The house belonged to Ragnar, and the fire that burnt it down killed his wife and his child, and the townsfolk, including the Jarl herself, are suspicious because Ragnar took up with a new love the day after the fire. Upon investigation to the burnt house, after nightfall, you'll come across a ghost, the ghost of Ragnar's child. After discussing the suspicious circumstances of the house fire to the now dead child, it'll become clear that the finger of blame is now pointing towards Alva, Ragnar's new love. Through love and jealousy, the plot will now thicken, for it will become clear that Alva is in fact a vampire, and when it is discovered, she'll flee into the depths of the Morthal forest. For there are many horrors in these woods. One such horror is Morvar's lair, which is a vampire lair. Only the brave would venture into such a place, and those who do would likely discover the true threat that Morthal faces. For Morvarth, the master vampire, plans to turn the town of Morthal into a blood farm for his coven of vampires. Now I do hope you enjoyed that second Halloween tale from Tamriel, because we've still got a lot more to go. First up though, I'd just like to give a little shout out to Crafty Candy, who sent me this wonderful Halloween Skyrim themed charm. She makes lots of little handcrafted trinkets, and I'd highly recommend checking out her Instagram and Etsy store. So of course, as always, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can check out where to get these really unique little items.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
So next up today, we've got a few older tales in Tamriel that I shared before. But being that they have that horror theme, I figured I'd add them into this video to finish off. Enjoy. Herbane's Bestiary, Hagravens. The 5th of Sun's Dawn. I have heard a tale most bizarre. A beautiful young woman cast out of town by the thrown stones of the accusers for giving in to the dark arts. They say she fled into the Reach and never reappeared. And justly so, because they say the devilry of her magic had grown stronger with each new day. Shortly after, a witch of half woman and half bird had been sighted deep in the mountains. And as the sightings increased, the young woman began to disappear. This tale has brought me to the Reach, where this witch they call a Hagraven makes its home. With sword and shield at the ready, for I must see the creature, and I must slay it. The stomach of an average man would have turned at the cruelty set before me. I first saw the thatch and bone, the human skulls, the dead goat's head, mounted on pikes, filthy animal pelts in loose entrails, and the feathers matted in blood. I have heard that the Forsworn revere and protect these Hagravens, and all around were their small crude trinkets and altars to these witches in which sat dull, empty soul gems. What vile creature would live where all things are dead? Deeper into the lair, I heard it first. An unsteady shuffling, followed by heaving. I saw the silhouette of what I thought to be a frail woman on an awkward gate. But the light of the torch revealed something else. The Hagraven was horrifying, almost human, but an abomination of a woman and a creature fused together. Nothing more than a husk of humanity surrendered in exchange for the possession of the powers of dark magic. It bristled as it let out a piercing scream, and as a vivid red light began to form in the palm of its talons, it was all I could do was to raise my shield in defence of the magic most foul. I fought through devilry that seemed to snatch the life from me, and the thought that this thing was once a woman seemed to play on my nerves. Where most men would have crumbled, I did not bend. The Hagraven is the most repulsive creature, and deserving of its fate, and the claws are now my trophy, and I'll tell the story of her bane's triumph. I have naught but to continue my travels and my conquest, for I have yet to see what would make me tremble more. Hello and welcome to another tale in Tamriel in which we explore the lore of the Elder Scrolls. What I need to say is I'm really happy with how the channel's grown and I'd love to see that continue, so please feel free to hit that like or subscribe button. Today we're going to explore the death of a wanderer. But because that story's quite short, I'm also going to try and merge in on Stepping Lightly, the Nordic ruins of Skyrim. The last time I saw the old Argonian, I was taken by how alive he seemed, even though he was at the throes of death. The secret, he said, of staying alive, is not in running away, but by swimming directly at danger. Is that how you managed to find the claw? I asked, brandishing the small carving as if it were a weapon. I had found it among his possessions, which I was helping him to divvy amongst his benefactories. Do you know what this is? He asked. I've heard stories, I answered. The same as you. Looks like one of those claws for opening and sealing doors in the ancient crypts. I've never seen one for myself before though. And so you want me to have it? I joked. Where did you get this? It's truly amazing what you can find along the bottom of a lake, he answered. Did you ever try to use it? I whispered to him. He was staring at the ceiling now, and by the way his fogged eyes darted around the room, I could tell he was seeing his memories instead of the cracked stone above us. Dotting the landscape of Skyrim, the ancient Nordic ruins are a testament to the ingenuity of the Nordic people of the past. When constructing the final resting place of the noble class, these supposedly barbaric people proved quite the opposite, by developing some of the most sophisticated and clever defences ever encountered. Coupled with the presence of fearsome draugr, these tombs have become quite a challenge for the would-be treasure hunters. Suddenly the Argonian snapped at me. Where do you think I got this? He barked, tearing his tunic open and showing a white scar on his scales. The blasted draugr. They got the drop on me. Just too many of them. For the draugr tend to lay dormant until someone happens upon their resting place. These undead beings tend to animate rather rapidly and silently. Perhaps some of the most amazing engineering marvels of all to be found in the ruins are the switches and pressure plates and the traps designed to kill. Suddenly I felt awful, since I knew how much he hated talking about the battles he had been in. To him it was enough he had survived, and simply, any stories would just amount to boasting. For a while we sat in silence. You know what always bothered me? He asked. why they even bothered with the symbols. The what? The symbols, you fool, look at the claw. I turned it over in my hand and sure enough, etched into the face were 3 animals. A bear, an owl, and some kind of insect. What do the symbols mean? He explained to me about the claw, and the animals that were etched onto it, and the sliding doors that it opened. I paused for a minute. Wait a minute, isn't that a little bit easy? Why even have the combination if you're going to write it on the key? For yes, it is true, the perils of the Nordic ruins are not without reward. The burial chambers in some of the larger complexes have been known to contain all manners of riches, from gold coins to even the occasional enchanted weapon or armour. The Argonian then replied, as I lay there bleeding on the floor, I figured it out. The doors. They were never meant to keep people out. They were meant to keep the Draugr in. And that concludes my Halloween with DragonLorne video. I really hope you got some form of enjoyment from this, and I appreciate it if you made it this far. Please feel free to interact with as much comments as you like, and until next time, see ya.